Hey guys, it's the HR Twins here, and we're so excited to have Ashlee Brooks from Brooks and Associates Tax Consulting in the Career Salon with us today.
Miss Brooks is going to show us how to fill out that dreadful new W-4. I know some of you might have had troubles when it first came out. I know I looked surprised when it first dropped on the IRS website, and we're so excited that our tax consultant colleague is going to come on our platform today to help you out. So please make sure you go follow her on all of her social media, support her business, and listen up because she's got the goods.
Hi, everyone. Ashlee Brooks here from Brooks and Associates Tax Consulting Services. I wanted to check in with you guys as we are quickly approaching the 2021 tax season. As you guys know, with COVID last year, and we're still dealing with it this year, things have been challenging to say the least. And a lot of things that have taken place. One thing that has affected a lot of people is change in job, loss in job, having to work multiple jobs. And with that, they have to complete the W-4 form. Yes, the dreaded W-4 form. Now, as you know, a lot of individuals think this form is super simple, but when you are starting to complete the form, it typically is not the case. Prior to 2020, the form typically focused on the number of allowances to determine how much tax you had withheld from your check. In 2020, the IRS decided to revise the form with the intent of making the form simple for taxpayers and to focus on the number of jobs that you have versus the number of allowances that you have. So I wanted to take out time today to go through the form with you to address some common questions that I get from my clients. And I'm sure that you have when you're completing the form as well. And hopefully that'll give you a little more insight. Now, I will say, as you complete this form, it may be better for you to get with your tax professional to ensure that the form is completed accurately. Now, if you don't have a tax professional, I strongly recommend getting one because what happens is, and I've seen it a lot, individuals complete the form. They may choose their wrong filing status. They may not know if they should complete step 2, step 3, step 4. And by them not knowing, they can overpay in taxes or they can actually underpay in taxes. And they won't realize this until it's time to file their tax return. So again, today I want to take out time to actually go through the form line by line, and I'm going to hit on some common things. The more complex situations, I'm not going to touch on too much because it's not a common thing that each taxpayer has to encounter, but I do want to address some questions. And if you have additional questions, again, address it with your tax professional or contact one so you can ensure the form is completed accurately. So now I want to share my screen and we're going to go through the form. So let's see here. Okay, now that we have the form pulled up, so in step 1, this form is pretty straightforward. You are going to first start by entering in your name, and we're just going to say Jane Doe. And don't forget to enter in your social. Okay, and then we're going to enter in the address and your city and state. If I can spell. Okay. And so step 1, line C, is an area that I get a lot of questions about. Should I choose single, married filing separate, married filing joint, head of household? My quick answer would be to look at your prior year's tax return. Now, if you see on your tax return that you had one of these filing statuses, it's very simple just to select the same. Now, if you've had a change in terms of you've gotten married, you've gotten divorced, you've had children, then you would want to know the differences between each filing status. So in short, the primary one, head of household, that simply means that you are not married, but you have children, or you are claiming individuals, whether they are relatives like your parents, your uncle, your sister, or someone else, but they live with you and you support them 50% or more. Okay. So if you are unmarried, you're supporting them with more than 50%. And then you have children. Yes, you want to claim head of household. Now, If you are married, that's very straightforward. Either you're going to select married, filing joint or married, filing single. And if you are single, that means that you are not married, you do not have any children, nor do you claim any dependents. Make sure that you choose the appropriate filing status. I've had individuals think that they can select head of household, and they find out when they file their tax return that they have to pay money back because they are choosing a tax bracket that they are not eligible for. So this is very, very important to select the appropriate status. For all intents and purposes of this example, I'm going to select married, filing joint. Okay. So now we're going to go down to step 2. Now with step 2, if you are single with one job, you would not complete step 2. You would actually move down and complete step 5 by signing here and putting the date, and then you would submit this form to your HR department or to the payroll department. Now, if you are married, filing joint, or you're single and you have multiple jobs, you would need to complete step 2. As you can see here, it says multiple jobs or a spouse with a job as well. So here you have step A, step B, and step C. Now, let's go to step C. This section you will complete, and this will make the form fairly simple also, if you and your spouse both have one job and your salaries are comparable to each other. So if one is making 90K, another makes 100K, then you are okay with completing step 2, section C. All you would need to do is check this box here. And again, you would go to step 5, sign and date. And you and your spouse will complete this W-4 form for your respective jobs. And again, that's how the form is simple. You're not having to worry about allowances. You're filling out step 1 section, you're checking a box in step 2, and then you're signing your name in step 5. Now, here's where it gets complex. If you and your spouse have more than one job and you have a significant difference in your salary, now we have to go a little further. If you are single and you have multiple jobs and your salary varies on each job, now we have to go a step further. Also, let's look at section A of step 2. Here, if you want your taxes to be accurate, the IRS has a tax estimator on their website that you can reference. And this goes into a lot of more detail. I wouldn't suggest that you try to complete this, the tax estimator yourself. I would highly recommend, if you're having to complete step 2, you really need to speak with your tax professional or find a tax professional to help you complete the W-4 form. But again, step 2, section A, you can use the tax estimator if you are wanting an accurate amount of withholdings taken out of your paycheck. So for step B, if you are wanting to just do an estimate, we're actually going to move down to page 3. Now on page 3, this is where you're going to identify that you have 2 jobs or more. Now this form, as you can see, it's a little overwhelming. And if you follow the instructions, this form is pretty much stating that you have to now go to page 4. On page 4 is this huge chart. And this chart is broken down by filing status. And as you can see up top, you have married, filing joint here. You have single or married, filing separate here. And you have head of household here. Okay, so we're going to use an example to say that for a married, filing joint couple, one person makes $100,000 and the second person makes $50,000. The way that you read this chart, you have to take the higher paying job. So if the individual is making $100,000, we're going to highlight that here. And horizontally, we have to go all the way across until we see the 50K, which is here. So we have to meet in the middle. And so if we look at the 100K here and where 50K is vertically, you will see that the tax that should be withheld from the pay is $9,320. So we're going to take this amount. We are going to go back to page 3 and we will enter $9,320 here. Now in step 2 here, this is if you have 3 jobs or more. I won't go into this in details because this is a little more complex. And again, I wouldn't recommend that you calculate this yourself. You should get with a tax professional. But if it's simply that you have two jobs and you know the significant difference in salary, you can use that chart to identify this amount. And pretty much what this is saying is that you're going to take this $9,320 and you're going to divide it by your pay periods. So some individuals get paid monthly, some get paid bi-monthly, and some get paid bi-weekly. If you are paid monthly, you would divide $9,320 by 12 pay periods. If you are paid bi-monthly, you would divide this amount by 24 pay periods. I had to think about that one. And then if you're paid bi-weekly, you would have to divide this amount by 26 pay periods. And so in dividing that number, you should see that amount coming out of your check each pay period. Now, in completing this form, you would want to, again, make sure that your spouse completes the form the same way to ensure that the appropriate amount of tax is withheld from your paycheck. So here again, we're not going to really get into this section because this is a little more complex and something you should go over with your tax professional. But if we go back to page 1, after you've completed step 2 by identifying if you have multiple jobs, if you have a significant difference between your spouse salary and yours, or if they are fairly the same, you will complete step 2. Once you complete step 2, you will go to step 3. Now, step 3, this is a simple process. Either you have children or dependent or you don't. So again, if you don't have any children, that means that you're only claiming single and you would just skip 3 and skip 4 and complete step 5. If you have children, in step 3, this is stating that you multiply the number of children under the age of 17, not 18, not 19, but 17. You multiply the number of children by 2,000. So let's say, for an example, the married couple has 2 children. If they have 2 children, you're going to multiply that by 2,000. So the deduction will be $4,000. And let's just say that they are claiming their mother because they paid more than 50% of support for her. So they're actually going to multiply that one dependent, their mother, by 500. So you will put 500 here. So we're going to add that up and that'll give you $4,500. So pretty much this is telling you that you will actually receive a credit on your tax return. When they're calculating how much tax to withhold from your pay, they do take into account any child tax credits or dependent care credits that you do have. So in step 4, as you can see, this says optional. This section is to be completed only if you have other income, such as you have a business on the side, or you have rental income, or you have investment income, such as if you are selling your investments in the stock market, you will get a profit from that. This will be other income. If you anticipate having other income for the year, this is where you will put that amount, because again, the other income has to be taxed as well. And if we don't include that other income, you can potentially underpay in tax. So we have to account for that. So in step 4, section B, this is where you would enter your deductions. And here, as you can see, it states that this is for other deductions besides the standard deduction. So if you typically itemize, this is where you would include this information to say that you're itemizing, because it's going to be greater than the standard deduction. And again, that dictates your tax. That dictates how much tax you have withheld. So you definitely will, I would say, look at your prior year return to see if you've itemized. And if you had, then step 4 could be applicable to you. Now, step 4, section C. Only complete this section if you have met with your tax professional. If you've met with your tax professional, ask for tax planning. By getting tax planning, you're able to identify your estimated tax liability for the year. And if you see that you're going to owe more that you're having withheld automatically, you do want to have extra withholdings, and your tax professional will be able to identify what that amount should be. So again, once you start looking at step 2, step 3, step 4, I highly recommend getting with a tax professional. Please do not try to complete this form on your own if you have multiple jobs or if you're married, because again, you could potentially underpay in tax or you could overpay in tax. And I don't think any of us love giving more money to the IRS than we have to, right? So again, just in looking at this form, as you can see, this is the current form 2021. This is the information that you would enter in step 1. And again, step 2, only complete this if you have multiple jobs. If you and your spouse have similar salaries, just check this box here and you move on to step 5. And step 3, this information, I would say discuss with your tax professional to ensure, or again, you can refer to your tax return. So this pretty much, again, sums up how to complete step 4. I hope that this information you found to be beneficial to you. You learned something from it. And if you do not have a tax professional, feel free to reach out to me. I offer 30-minute free consultations. I can be reached via email at abrooks@baataxconsulting.com. You can also reach me on Instagram. My handle there is TaxBoss, TaxBawse. And you can contact me in my DM. I actually have a link on there where you can schedule a consultation. If you have questions, if this information on the W-4 form, it still made you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. Contact your tax professional if you have one. Make sure your W-4 is completed. And a telltale signs that your W-4 form may not be accurate is if you owe tax every year. If you owe tax every year, please schedule an appointment with your tax professional, ask for tax planning, and make sure that the W form is completed accurately. And again, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And until then, I look forward to speaking with you guys next time and sharing some more information with you, and hope that you did find this beneficial. Take care.